In 1985, many people were stunned when President Reagan visited a cemetery in Bitburg, Germany, and laid a wreath where some 2,000 German soldiers were buried, members of the Waffen-SS, which was the combat arm of the SS. And this was a paramilitary organization that helped run the Nazi extermination camps, and they committed, many other atrocities, including the murder of American POWs. Why on earth did Reagan go to Bitburg?
The fact that Ronald Reagan was sent to Bitburg to worship and lay a wreath at the Waffen-SS tomb shows the power of the Fourth Reich in the United States.
Why did Reagan do that? Horrible, horrible advice from someone on his staff.
That is a very, very crucial part of the story.
At Bitburg was buried only Waffen-SS. They were Fritz Kramer's troops.
Who exactly was Fritz Kramer?
Fritz Kramer was Hitler's master general at the Bulge.
Fritz Kramer was one of the SS men who then ended up over in the United States and moved around in U.S. military circles.
Was it Kramer that ordered Reagan to lay a wreath at the Bitburg Cemetery?
Obviously, somebody with a lot of power ordered Reagan to lay the wreath at Bitburg because when that was announced he was going to do that, that caused quite a turmoil, particularly among veterans organizations and among Jewish organizations, but he did it anyway.
Given the evil empire speech, given Reagan's and the United States' antipathy towards Soviet Russia, I honestly can only assume that he felt it showed forgiveness for the current generation of German people. We don't blame you for what your fathers or your grandfathers did. That's my best guess.
Obviously, there was somebody with a lot of clout that got him to do that.
Well, we should be worried because Nazism, we have to remember, is an ideology that was midwifed into existence prior to World War II by German secret societies. In other words, it's the ideology that persists. And if you're creating as I believe that they did, if you're creating a kind of a post-war international fascista or international Nazi movement, this means that the ideology itself is going to be propagated. So it's not necessarily even the personnel we have to look at. We have to look at the persistence of the ideas. And I think that you can find those ideas very much in evidence in Western culture right now.
When you get their technology, you also get their philosophy. And this is how National Socialism wormed its way into the American political system.
When you look at the history of the United States, from the Korean to the Vietnam War to what's going on in Afghanistan, 9/11, the lies that there was weapons of mass destruction, it's all Nazi-type tactics.
Is this going to culminate in the Nazis taking over the entire world? Is there, for example, a Fuhrer waiting behind the scenes who will emerge onto the world scene?
Through the George W. Bush administration, with the false flag operation of 9/11 being the foundation, the starting point, they begin to dismantle the Constitution. They begin to create the Department of Homeland Security, which sounds suspiciously like the Gestapo, you know. I mean, they're laying down the same method of operation as the Nazis did to control the population in Europe.
You've got an increasing kind of a police state snitch culture going on in this country. You've got cameras on every intersection. You've got cameras in public places, not as bad as in Great Britain, but it's getting there. Within the United States, you've got a corporate culture that has basically so interwoven itself with the government. In other words, we're dealing with President Eisenhower's old military-industrial complex, but you've got a corporate culture and a government culture where the government is no longer really looking out for the public good, it's looking out for the corporate good. And that, by definition, is fascism, because this is exactly what Mussolini set up, this is exactly what Adolf Hitler set up inside of Nazi Germany.
Well, how can skinhead organizations not concern you? How can the Aryan nation here in the United States not concern you? Are they an organized military? Are they an elected government? They are not. Do they have the same sociopathic, racist, ideological aims as the Third Reich? A number of them do. And of course, that's very concerning. Should they get organized, and should they somehow slide into political power, that would be concerning.
You find them infiltrating themselves into positions of senior management within various defense corporations. The most famous example, of course, being General Walter Dornberger, who becomes a vice president at Bell Helicopter. So, you know, take that and multiply it several times throughout the American defense community, and you've got a real infiltration of key corporations and key agencies inside the United States.
The Nazis never surrendered. They just moved everything out of Europe. They sent out their patents, their copyrights, their, you know, gold, silver, paintings, artwork. They're still trying to get a lot of that back, right? And where did most of them go? Well, a lot of them went to South America, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. A lot of them went to Egypt, but a bulk of them came to the United States.
The Fourth Reich now is been resurrected. We have, when you look at the history of the United States, from the Korean to the Vietnam War to what's going on in Afghanistan, 9/11, the lies that there was weapons of mass destruction, it's all Nazi-type tactics that they're using.
More than 65 years after we supposedly defeated as evil an ideology the world has ever known, there appears to be at least some credible evidence that a number of ranking Nazis were able to assume positions of authority and power inside the U.S. government, military, and military-industrial complex. There also appears to be substantial evidence that Hitler was heavily financed by U.S. bankers and industrialists, including the grandfather and father of 2 future U.S. presidents. And it appears that the surviving Nazis used their considerable war plunder obtained by looting much of Europe to create huge corporate front companies around the world, including the United States. The question is, did the nearly 2,000 Nazi scientists and intelligence officers and other officials smuggled into the U.S. after the war under Operation Paperclip bring their evil philosophy of National Socialism to America and create, as Jim Marrs calls it, a new empire, or Fourth Reich? And now, I'd like to know what you think. You can contact me here at The Conspiracy Show through our website, www.theconspiracyshow.com. In the meantime, don't be afraid.